Reggie here, your fellow neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This is a little bit of an impromptu live stream. I certainly did not plan to go live today, but I received a piece of news a short while ago from Squirrel Madness. He sent me a message, and I think the gist of it was, you're probably already aware of this, but I wanted to cover the base. And I was not aware. I was not aware in any way, shape, or form of some news that broke yesterday regarding Spider-Man. And so I had to very quickly try to play catch up. I am not fully up to speed on the issue because there are some legalities here, and I am not an attorney. I was married to one once upon a time, but that does not make me an expert in any way, shape, or form. But nevertheless, I am going to serve as your reporter for this news and deliver the information to you guys, and then we will try to process through the ramifications of it as we work our way through the article and then what comes in the months ahead, because there could potentially be some ramifications here, not just for Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, but for creators the world over in a lot of respects. And I'm honestly not trying to play that up. This thing has some ramifications. Stammer's like, it's early, sips coffee. Brother, my cup is right here on the desk. Okay, we are 1.5 cups in this morning, so we are going to try to power through this thing because I do have some work, some actual like jobby job work to do. So we're going to get to this thing. So yesterday, the news broke that the Stephen Ditko family is attempting to get paid. They are attempting to get paid off of Stephen Ditko's most popular characters that he created, specifically Doctor Strange and a Spider-Man. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I am all for it. I'm gonna be completely honest. You guys know that I am a huge fan of like creator rights, and it doesn't matter whether it's YouTube creators or true creators like the legendary Steve Ditko, or Jack Kirby, or any of these other guys that have created these wonderful characters. I am a huge fan of them getting their just due. So it is in that spirit that we're actually going to talk about this thing, how the Stephen Ditko estate has essentially filed a copyright termination that will affect both Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. And this is an article that I found on comicbook.com. It was released yesterday. And again, because of the magnitude of this, I'm surprised that this one got away from me. But you can see here the headline: Spider-Man, Doctor Strange copyright terminated. Termination filed by the Stephen Ditko estate. And it says, in a move that will have copyright lawyers at the Disney company sweating, the estate of comic book artist Steve Ditko has filed 2 notices of copyright termination with Disney and Marvel with regard to the copyrights for the aforementioned characters, that being Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. And the next section of this thing essentially goes into a copyright law from 1976 that allows creators and or their heirs to regain any type of copyright rights that they may have given away or sold away. They can reclaim those rights under this law that I guess was passed in 1976. And so what it says here is, what makes the notice of termination hard to achieve for creators and their families comes down to the classification of how it was created. And so the challenge here will be this: Marvel will make the case that it was work for hire. We hired Stephen Ditko to create these characters, therefore the characters belong to us. The estate for Stephen Ditko will make the other argument that the characters were created and then sold to Marvel / Disney, and as a result of that, they have the ability to take those rights back. They were sold, but they can now be recovered again under this Copyright Act of 1976. So the big question is, who is right? That is like part of the challenge of who is right. But to make it a little more complicated, that law from 1976, I do believe, only counts for the work that was done and not for the derivative work. So, for example, what Stephen Ditko's estate has filed for is Amazing Fantasy 15 and the first appearance of Doctor Strange and Strange Tales 110. So in reality, what the estate would get would be the rights to any characters that appeared in those two comics, not necessarily all of those characters that were created after those issues based upon the aforementioned characters, right? So that is one of the tricky parts of is yes, if you are successful in convincing the court that you sold your rights and you deserve your rights back and you get them, your rights are only to the extent of the original work that was created, not the derivative work that is based upon your work. And so that is one of the kind of tricky things. So to that point, if successful, the estate would own things like the Ancient One, Wong, Aunt May, Uncle Ben, of course, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man, which is huge. But think about the universe of characters that surround the aforementioned characters, right? I think in the Spider-Man universe right now, there are like 900 characters, I guess, owned by Sony at this point, right? Yes, Stephen Ditko's estate might get a handful, but what about the other 800 and whatever odd number of characters? That is part of what makes this really tricky. And in this article, on comicbook.com, they actually do a really good job of talking about how some other creators have been very successful in terminating the copyrights for their work and regaining control of their IP. And they cite like Wes Craven. They also talked about Victor Miller, who wrote the original screenplay for Friday the 13th. Now, what's important about that is that we haven't seen a Friday the 13th movie in like a decade. And part of the reason for that is because they've been caught up in court. Because the question is, again, he owned the original screenplay, but what about everything else that came after, right? So that is still like a big bone of contention. And as a result of that, we have not seen a movie in a very long time. So if you guys are joining late, essentially what we are talking about is the fact that the Stephen Ditko family has actually filed a termination notice of the copyright for Spider-Man and also Doctor Strange, which potentially has some ramifications, on one side, the family could get their just due and actually be able to reap some of the benefits from these amazing characters that were created. On the other side, you could get some stuff that is bogged down and it doesn't really see the light of day. And so in that way, a lot of people will suffer. But I am a huge fan of creator rights. So this is one where I'm like, hey, get what you deserve, because all too often we have heard these crazy stories of creators that have done some stuff and received only a couple of bucks for the amazing work that they did. I think most recently, Jim Shooter got $10,000 for, which was work for hire, $10,000 for Secret War, which they are thinking about making into a movie. He received $10,000, even though that was work for hire. They have gone back, the lawyers that is gone back and tried to put new deals in place to shore up that IP, because potentially, because of this law from 1976, people could come back and do exactly what the Stephen Ditko family is doing right now. So I wanted to catch people up on some of this stuff. The article goes on to talk about a few other things, specifically like the family of Jack Kirby, who has filed 45 termination notices. 45. And they lost every single one of them, right? And the reason for that is that the court deemed that the work that was done by Jack Kirby was work for hire. Therefore, they would not give those rights to Jack Kirby's estate. Now, with that said, it looks like Marvel and the family did work out a deal, because we have an Eternals movie coming out. And I think that let me see if I can find the statement here. They lost their case in multiple courts when Kirby's work was deemed work for hire. The family and Marvel would later announce that they had amicably resolved their legal disputes, and it's unclear of whether this was a monetary settlement but one could assume that there was probably some money that was given over after 45 notices. And so we don't know what's going to happen with Stephen Ditko's family. It could be something like what happened with Jack Kirby, where this thing goes on for several years and then gets resolved in a couple of bucks, or it could go the way of what happened with Jerry Siegel's family. So if you look here, Jerry Siegel's family filed some claims. They were successful in claiming those rights. And so now DC has to include this special line by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And so based upon that, I think that the family, the estate actually does reap some of the benefits of anything tied to Siegel's creation of Superman. So we don't know which way this thing is going to blow, but it appears here that we have some deadlines on the horizon. Well, not on the near horizon, on the far horizon. It looks like here that the termination will become effective on June 2nd, 2023. And I think that is for Spider-Man. And then the Doctor Strange termination will become effective on June 9th, 2023. So there's going to be some legal wranglings over, I'm guessing, the next 2 years or so. The interesting thing, or I think the thing we should note here, is that this does not, I don't think, affect the movies that are going to be released. So Spider-Man No Way Home is coming out December 17th, 2021. And then Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is supposed to be coming out March 25th of 2022. So it does not appear that either one of these termination notices will affect those movies being released, but it could have some ramifications for these characters, for the derivative characters, but also for other creators out there that may be in a similar boat where they did some work for hire, and the work that they created for a comic book has now become a video game and kids' toys and pajamas and movies and theme park attractions. It opens the door for these creators' families to be able to reclaim some of what was unseen, right? Because no one back in the 62, 63, no one could have seen what we are seeing right now in terms of the values of these this IP and all of the derivatives that have come as a result of that. So let me go to the chat real quick, seeing if everyone is kind of caught up. Let me see. I think Jack Kirby had a much bigger reason to receive rights than Ditko. I would not venture to say that either one had a better claim. I would say that both of these individuals have created some really successful characters, and in my head, creators should be compensated for the work that they do in a fair way, right? So that's my take on this thing. Told man, if Ditko had joined Substack, he would have owned Spidey outright. Well said, brother. Well said. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that would be it, because that doesn't really save them. That doesn't really save them by killing the character off. It doesn't really save them. But maybe they also, isn't Spider-Man dead too? Maybe. Comic Journey, you may have stumbled on to a secret as to why we are getting Ben Reilly back as Spider-Man. You, sir, that conspiracy theories shall abound right now. Let me see. I'm scrolling through. Squirrel Madness, thank you, brother, for stopping by, and thank you for dropping this nugget on me this morning. Squirrel Madness is the person that brought this to my attention early this morning, which prompted me to put down my cup of coffee, start doing some research so that I could go live to bring you guys some of this information. So thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate that. Desire Comics says, Ditko may have a valid argument. I don't disagree. I do not disagree. Who is that? Xavier, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you, my friend. What is this? Stay tuned for my termination suit versus Regie. It worked for hire. Work for hire. You work for free, but work for hire, brother. Don't even try that. You guys are hilarious. The dog isn't dead. He just went to a farm where he could have more room to roam. That's what you tell kids. I'm like, no, that thing is dead. That's just how I do it. But again, this potentially is some good news for the family. At the end of the day, I don't know which way the wind is going to blow on this thing, but I thought it was very interesting that the Ditko family is trying to recover these rights for Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. It'll be interesting again to see how this plays out over time. It's also really good to know that some creators have been successful in reclaiming their rights and or in sharing in some of the profits. There is a tremendous amount of money that is generated from this IP. In my opinion, my super humble opinion, more than enough to go round as a person that owns stock in Disney through various mutual funds. There's like more than enough money to go around. Why not? Why not break the creators off a little bit of money so that they can have some generational wealth for the amazing work that was done by their forefathers. You know, if I ever create something, I want my kids to be able to benefit from it, even if I don't necessarily benefit directly from it immediately. Rodney, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you, my friend. Yeah, you guys are right. You got I will double zero. I will double zero Clyde in a heartbeat. Sir, you are due for a raise. You are due for a raise. I deem it to be true. Rob Boswell. Rob, is your name Al Gore? Are you Al Gore secretly, sir? Having created the internets. Anyway, I want to wrap this thing up. I wanted to jump on here real quick to bring this news to you guys. It was news that was news to me, might be news to you. I don't know how the heck I missed it yesterday, but again, shout out to Squirrel Madness for making me aware of what the Ditko family is attempting to do with the rights associated with Spider-Man and also Doctor Strange. All I can say, people, is get that money, but don't stop making comic book movies. That's all that I can say. Don't stop it. If you guys need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.